מדברים בעברית או באנגלית? אנגלית? אוקיי. We would like to start. Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Avner Algom. I'm the CEO of the IGT, the Israeli Grid Technologies Organization, which today is Israeli Cloud Computing Organization. Tell you a bit about the evolution of the name. Today I will have a session that I will start with presenting our organization and the issues that involve innovation in cloud computing. And to will show the innovation in Israel, I chose to bring the top 3 companies that won the IGT award in our annual event. And they will present you their added values and innovations that happen here in Israel in the cloud computing community. So just from the first picture, by the way, you can see here that we are living in a new world of cloud computing, which is a social world. And it has 2 elements of it. The first one is the element of the mobile. We'll talk about this extensively later on. And the world of big data, which is a co-product of cloud computing. And we will talk about why we have the Israeli flag here in the middle is because the cloud computing today is a great opportunity for Israeli software industry to succeed more before the era of cloud computing. So let's start. Okay. A little bit about our organization. Our organization is about 9 years old. We started before the term cloud was formed. At that time, it was called grid. But it has the same philosophy, looking at the network as the computer, a logical computer that provides us on-demand services. And today we have more than 3,000 people coming to our ongoing events and more than 120 companies. That shows you the big innovations that we have here in Israel. The purpose of this organization is to provide frameworks for knowledge sharing and networking, and through that to increase the innovation in the cloud computing era. So it's like ongoing universities where people coming to study, and also a marketing channel so companies can present their innovations and to get feedbacks and brainstormings. We also won several awards. One of them is this year by a platform called meetup.com. We are using meetup.com as a platform to manage our ongoing events. And they monitor the activities of technical forums around the world. And in March, as you see here, we won the first place before New York and the Silicon Valley in terms of number of people participated in 1 month of events around cloud computing technologies. I would like to start with some numbers that impact the economy of cloud computing. The first one is that we see here, out of 7 billion people that living on Earth, around 2.5 billion are connected to the internet. Okay, so let's say more than a third of the population of the world are connected to the internet, and these numbers are increasingly very fast. And actually, it's great as a virtual small village. We're talking about the world as a small village. This is one of the proof, those numbers showing that we have a small virtual village. Another number is the number of Facebook that passed the 1 billion users mark this year. It's actually the 3rd country after China and India that has the 3rd largest population in the world. It's a virtual country, but we can say this platform is unifying us as one unified society that impacts all the business of the world. So let's start from basics. The whole idea of cloud computing is actually to provide automation of IT services. And the philosophy comes from the power grid networks. That today, if we want to get a service from the power company, we take electricity, we hook up to the wall, and automatically we get a service of electricity. We don't care where it's being produced and how it's being produced. We just want to pay per use. once we switch on the instrument, we start paying. We switch it off, we stop paying. So we said, why don't we adapt this philosophy to the IT world, enable us to connect to the network, and ask for resources as we need it. For example, if I have an application needs now 10 computers and 2 tera of storage, I will just ask it, and automatically I will get my 10 servers with my 2 tera storage, and immediately I can use it for my application. And I will pay only for the time that I will use those resources. So if I use it only for 10 hours, I will pay only for those 10 hours, exactly like in electricity. And today also there is an area that called smart grid that unify those two worlds of electricity and cloud, in which, the smart grid, we put smart boxes at the endpoints at home or at work, and we monitor the consumption of electricity services. And the cloud services are being used for management and security for the power grid network. So we see today an explosion of products and services in the cloud. We have 3 main services: the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Infrastructure, it means that, as I gave an example before, I want to have hardware as a resource, servers, storage, network, etc. Platform as a service are services for developers that want to develop and concentrate on their logic of the code without dealing with infrastructure beneath it. And the software as a service is for us end users like Gmail or Salesforce for Business, etc., that can use application without the need to install anything. They just need to go to the browser, register, and start working. So the revolution, the business revolution that SaaS brings to the world is the fact that in the old world, or the current world before it moved to the SaaS, we had to fly all over the world and install our software per location. Today, all we have to do is install 1 copy in the cloud, and the rest of the world can use my service. So it saves a huge amount of money for any startup that is in the software business, right? So if I want to create, like Google, a Gmail service, a new email service, all I have to do is install my software system somewhere in the cloud, and everybody that has a browser around the world can use my service. I don't need to run and install it all over the world. So this is one of the biggest economical revolutions that the cloud computing brings with it. Another phenomena is moving from manual physical resources products to the world of real-time and on-demand services. For example, as I gave the example before, I don't need to buy hardware anymore. All I need is my laptop or iPad or whatever, my smartphone, and I can have any number of servers and storage that I want on demand in a matter of minutes. So I can even build, one of the previous presentations talked about supercomputer. I can have a supercomputer in several minutes, say to Amazon Web Services, I want now 1,000 servers, and in a few minutes I get 1,000 servers. This is a great revolution. The second is the application. I don't need to install and buy CDs to install software at home or anywhere else. All I need to do is use my browser, get to the service, register, and start using it. So it saves me disk space. I don't need to deal with backups. I don't need to deal with antiviruses, etc. The third revolution is the content. Who bought DVD or music CD lately? Remember once we had physical stores that we went to the libraries of CDs and we chose the movie? In the old days, I'm talking about 3 years maybe. Today, nobody buys DVDs anymore. We don't need it. Everything is online, real-time, streaming. I don't need even to do a download of files. I just go to Netflix services and on-demand real-time and see any movie that I want. So everything moves to the cloud. E-books. Yeah. Physical stores are being closed, virtuals are being opened, and today more books are being produced in the format of e-books versus physical paper books. And another interesting phenomena are the virtual workers. Okay? Today, for example, if I want to do a QA for my software, I can go to companies like UTest and tell them, give me now 100 people to test my software. And in a few hours, I will get those 100 people around the world to start testing my software. Today, if I need to do it without the automation of the cloud, I need to go to my HR, they need to publish some notes in the newspapers and wait for a month or two until they find the people, if at all. And this is also speeding processes tremendously and saving a lot of money. How much time do I have? Well, one of our speakers today that we brought here needs to leave at 20 to 1, so I want to give him some time to speak. So what I'll do here, I have a small break. Go to your presentation, you do yours, and then, so Ofer from Garantia Data, one of the companies that won the prize, will give his presentation because he needs to leave earlier. So let's... Yeah.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here. This is going to be a bit technical. There is no other choice. We are a technical company. So bear with me. Garantia Data works in the area of big data. I don't know if you ever heard this term, but today, with the rise, with the explosion of data in the world, there is a new area in technology which is called big data, which is how to handle very big amounts of data. And within big data, we focus on what is called NoSQL databases, which is a new type of databases, unstructured databases, which are widely used today by modern web applications as well as enterprises. And within NoSQL, we further focus on something which is called in-memory NoSQL, which are databases, NoSQL databases, which are served from RAM memory. RAM memory is the fastest memory available today. And in this category, you will find two products, Redis and Memcached. Memcached is a caching system for accelerating databases, whereas Redis is a standalone databases. Both are open source products, which means that the software is developed by the open source community. It does not belong to any company. And both are very, very fast. These are the fastest data store systems available today. As you can see here, they are 250 times faster in terms of the number of transactions you can do in 1 second than any of the traditional databases like MySQL. This type of databases is used today by the largest web companies such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Netflix, YouTube, and so on and so forth. However, although being widely used, they still suffer from major deficiencies in the area of scalability, which means how do you handle the database when the amount of data grows dramatically? Secondly, reliability. How do you avoid failures of your database? And the third thing is how do you recover out of failover? How do you recover from failures? In addition, self-managing these type of databases may be a very demanding task, which involves launching servers, taking down servers, scaling, clustering, recovering from failures, and many other tedious tasks. What if there was a platform that does all that fully automatically and at the same time guarantees full reliability and infinite scalability? Well, this is exactly what we do. Garantia Data, our company, provides web companies services for running their Redis and Memcached databases in a fully automated manner. Those two services, we call them the Redis Cloud and the Memcached Cloud. And what we offer, what does it mean to users? First of all, infinite scalability. The user can grow the database from megabytes to gigabytes to terabytes and even petabytes without doing anything. Everything is done fully automatically. In addition, zero data loss. We replicate the data and we added auto-failover mechanism which ensures that the data is always up and running. Highest performance, we run each data set by multiple cores and the strongest cloud machines, so we can guarantee that the user always gets the best performance. Zero management, hooking to our service and creating a database is a matter of seconds, and from that moment on, there is nothing else you need to do. Everything is done fully automatically. And pay-as-you-go charging model means that the customer, the company who uses those services, pay according to the size of the database in gigabytes, and that's it. No other hidden costs. Now, in order to develop the technology to provide all that, we had to do many things, and the basic challenge was how you do that without degrading performance, because we are talking here about the highest performance databases available today. So here we leveraged our years of experience of our team in high-speed networking and application acceleration. All our people come from companies such as Cisco, F5, Crescendo Networks, and so on and so forth. And we developed two different technologies. The first one is called dynamic clustering, and this is the technology which enables all the benefits which I've described so far. The second technology is a compression technology whereby we compress the data in real time, and this basically creates our business model. And talking about our business model, it is very simple. We downsize the footprint of the user's data set. We charge the users according to the original size, whereas our costs are according to the compressed size. So we can enjoy very generous margins. In terms of the market size, so this market is still in its infancy. The current market for our exact type of services is estimated at $75 million per year for this year, 2012, growing to around $500 million 3 years from now. And we are in a position to lead this market in terms of our technology and competitive edge. And in terms of competition, there are a few services who offer Redis or Memcached as a service. However, none of them comes even close to what we do in terms of overcoming Redis and Memcached limitations and automating all the processes. So we think that we have a very strong competitive edge. We launched the service over the Amazon Web Services Cloud earlier this year in February. In June, we switched to public beta, to having the service available to anyone. We started our marketing activities in September, and I'm proud to say that in just 2 months, we have already accumulated hundreds of registered users and hundreds of active databases on our service. Last month, in November, we launched the services over 3 platforms as a service: Heroku, UpFog, and UpHarbor. Next month, or actually this month, in December, we are going to deploy the service over the Microsoft Azure cloud, which is another cloud. And in January, we'll start to charge customers from the service, because everything is free until now. Starting January, everything will be for charge. So, to summarize, Garantia Data operates in a very, if you will, hot area, which is the intersection between cloud computing and big data. We have a very good opportunity here because this is a very focused niche area which we can lead with our technology. We think that we have the best technology, and this is a sustainable competitive edge because we also have very strong IP, intellectual property. And we have a great team of technical people and good leadership in terms of the founders of the company who have very strong experience. So this is our story. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'll switch back to my presentation. Okay, so we spoke about moving our data to the cloud and using the cloud for all kinds of things, including hiring people like the virtual workers. Another interesting phenomena that influence innovation is the short time to market that this platform provides us. And the best example is the Apple example. That today, if you have a great idea, all you have to do is even not write the code yourself, you can hire somebody to write the code for you. And once the application is ready, you put it on the catalog of Apple. And if it's real popular and successful, you can be a rich guy, even though that each application can cost only $1, because the market is built on hundreds of millions of people. So we don't have many successful stories, but the fact that everyone with a great idea, all he has to do is to have the idea. That's why it connects to the Yankees lecture before, that you can dream any idea and do it very easy. This platform of Apple and also the Android platform enables us to implement any idea in very short time, very cheaply, and hope that you really had the great idea and to become successful. I'm sure that everybody experienced some kind of this experience, that all the members of a family using some mobile devices like iPad, the iPhone, or whatever. And this phenomena obviously influences very much, and especially from social point of view. Today, actually, people are buying more mobile devices than PCs. And the mobile device is their new PC, the new mobile PC. And because of that, today we see several phenomena. First of all, as you see in the headline, the mobile is 24/7 social monitoring. Each one of us is being monitored by someone in the Big Brother cloud 24/7. They know where we are based on the location. They know what we buy, what we like to see. And this is based on the application that we are using, like it can be Google Maps, can be Waze, it can be any application that we are using. Automatically, it's being logged somewhere in the cloud, and somebody will analyze the data to make business decisions. For example, based on our behavior, publishers want to publish relevant commercials. So we will buy what we like to buy, cross-selling, etc. So this is one phenomena. We're being monitored 24/7. The second is the fact that because it's mobile, we are spending more time with our instruments. If we used to sit at home with a personal PC, let's say 6 hours a day, today with this instrument, it's all the time with us. In average, we're active like 12 hours a day. So we produce more data. We produce more data because we have these instruments all the time. It's very handy, very easy. And so we create big data. And this big data, as we said before, for business purposes, being analyzed all the time. I want to go into the psychological impact of it, because we know that, for example, children are now spending much more time with screens and those instruments, and it sometimes can be harmful. My recommendation, by the way, in this point is not to have a computer for each kid, but to have one computer at home and do time sharing on the computer, so the parents can have control on the time of the kids that's spending on the computer. And also the kids learn how to share. So you gain the advantage that the kids will not spend too much time on the screen, and they will learn how to share. So this is my recommendation based on my personal experience. Okay, so we build an infrastructure of IT. This infrastructure actually enabled us to automate the services, but also another important thing is to reduce the communication costs. For example, today we can talk to anybody, say over the phone, like Skype, etc., for free, or spend very low rates per minute to talk to anywhere in the world with anyone that we want. That means that more people can afford using this infrastructure and create big data. So actually, this is a famous picture of what's going on every 60 seconds, that in the most popular channels that produce big data, like YouTube, for example, and emails, etc., more and more people are creating data 24/7 because they can afford it. It's becoming cheaper, and the service is becoming more and more efficient and enables us to collaborate better. So a new type of human being is being created. We can call it the virtual person or the virtual social person, etc. But the fact that the young generation today, his default application when he goes to the computer is Facebook, and this is his way to communicate with his friends in his communities, etc., transform the way people think and transform the way business do business. So today, actually, we have a new terminology called social computing, which is the new way of doing business. Because every business today has to learn about this new phenomena of social business and see how will it impact his business. We see more and more companies thinking about a new job called Chief Social Officer that will be responsible to manage the relationship, the marketing, the sales, the business development of the company with the communities it can create around the company. Big data innovation. So all this big data that we created in the cloud needs application that will analyze it. And not only analyze it, but we also want everything to be in real time. And also we demand those applications to provide us predictive analysis, not just what happened in the past. We want the results to tell us what will happen in the future and to be ahead of our competition. So we need more and more resources to execute such applications. And those resources, usually thousands of CPUs and huge storage size, and an average company cannot afford economically to have those resources within the data center because it's very costly. So the only way economically everybody can compete is via the cloud services that reduces the price of using resources in large scale. Okay? Are there any questions until now? Yeah. Okay, big data, well, several definitions. The most popular one is that the conventional relational systems cannot process it anymore. Okay, and then we need something out of the box, which is not within the relational model. Big data is amount of data that my own resources cannot process, and I need resources outside my own resources in order to process it. It's all relative, yeah, based on application and the business needs, etc. But usually it's within the context of outside my traditional database system that cannot process it anymore, and especially when we talk about real-time data processing of huge amounts of data that are pouring inside the company. Yeah, the cloud provider itself is doing some kind of a resource sharing between his customers. And you as a customer needs to define what services you need. There are several services you can use. You can use CPU for computing. You can use storage to store the data. You can use voice over IP. You can use SaaS services to do all kinds of business applications. You can use it as a platform to develop software. Depends on your needs. There are thousands of services today that you can get automatically from the web for almost any idea that you have in mind, there is an application today that can do it for you. From doing movies, from writing books, even there are some legal officers that are asking people to find patents or ideas about patents, and if you find something that helps them to make the comparison faster, they give you money. There's an application of the US border authority with Mexico. They put cameras around the border, and people at home can see the picture of the cameras from the Mexican border at home, and then if they see somebody trying to cross the border, they get a bonus. So there's all kinds of applications that being done today via the cloud. You can see a big list of applications being developed to process the data. By the way, most of the data today is video-based in the internet. And later on it will be 3D, so the data is becoming heavier and heavier, and you need more processing power and scalability that an average company cannot afford. And the only way it can afford it is only via the cloud services. Yeah.
You present a very delightful, I mean, something that is very great, but also has a lot of threads on the cloud computing. And I was wondering how you protect in the cloud, and how do you do it?
Right. Right. I have a slide here about security, but in general, the cloud, most of the leading cloud providers provide you better security than any other average company. For example, if you take a small company, let's say 100 people, they have one guy responsible for the local servers. Does he understand security? It's not his specialty. They don't have the budgets to spend on high security means. When you compare it to, let's say, Amazon or AT&T and the big companies, they have huge budgets spending on security because this is their main business. And they also know that they have to spend a lot of resources in security because if they fail there, they can lose the business. So the absurd is that most of the good, big cloud providers provide you better security than any average company. So if you put the data in Amazon, it's much more secure than any average data center, including banks in Israel. Because, for example, I know where is the data center of Bank Leumi in Lod. So if I really want to, get into the data of Bank Leumi, and I know where the physical lines going there, it's easier than if theoretically Bank Leumi would have run itself on Amazon somewhere. I have no idea where it runs all the time. So it's much harder to get into the data in the cloud provider. The risk is that once somebody succeeds to penetrate, this is a huge amount of data that can go out. So for this, there are encryption, all kinds of encryption solutions and other protection mechanisms that companies need to take care of the data. If it's really critical, you have to encrypt it and only decrypt it when you have a runtime to run the application. Okay, another interesting phenomenon that will impact innovation is the network. One of the big enablers that enabled the phenomenon of cloud computing is the network performance. Because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the network was not so fast as today. Broadband was not so widely popular. But in the last 4 or 5 years, it's becoming more and more popular. Network is becoming much faster. And the next big revolution in networks will be that when the internet will become symmetrical. Because, today the download is 10 times faster than the upload. But in the future, can you imagine all of us will connected 1 gigabit or 10 gigabit per second between all of us, upload, download, no difference, then we will be able to create on-demand distributed clouds. Let's say all the people here in the room can decide to form one virtual cloud, and because the communication will be so fast, people will not feel the latency as they feel it today between different locations. Today, most of the clouds are centered in the data centers. But in the future, people can have a free market of resources be connected between each one that wants to make business with his friend. So in the future, the network performance will be faster. And obviously, the paradox is that the faster the network is, we create more big data because the network enables more data to flow. more data is flowing, there is a need for better network performance and vice versa. So that will be in the future. The future also will have services that we will be able to ask for network bandwidth. For example, now we want to transfer a huge file. We can ask, please give me 1 gigabit per second for the next 2 minutes. And I'll pay only for those 2 minutes for the fast network. Just to show some numbers, in 2001, we created 1 exabyte of data in 1 year. In 2013, we create the same amount of data per day. That means that we have 365 more data that we create now in the coming year. Just show you. Another thing in the mobile area, this by the way was done by Cisco. You see the amount of mobile data is being created. So if today per month we create 1.2 exabyte, in 2014 per month we'll create 3.6 exabyte only for mobile phones. So the mobile phones will be the major big data creator. I call it a small big data monsters because they have a video camera, regular camera, and we're sending all those outputs into the huge internet computer. Another interesting phenomenon is all those SaaS companies that have been created because they need to monitor their data from day one. They create log files, and those log files going to be analyzed in some other system, databases, etc. So they create big data by default. So every software company that is installing a business service on the web eventually will create big data because from day one they need to monitor the business activities into log files and analyze it in order to improve the services, so on. We also see that if historically most of the data was transactional, business-based, today most of the data we create in the world is web-based. Okay? All those data we create from the mobiles and the Facebook data, Twitter data, etc. So you ask about security. So security will always be there. There'll also be bad guys that are trying to penetrate and get data for different reasons. And but because, sorry, it should be better. But because as long as the cloud provides us a better cost-performance solution and a better economical solution, we will use it. Hacking and security will always be a threat, and it's a threat today for any company, with the cloud or without the cloud. And it's the same threats as always. So is the cloud more secure? As I said before, I think so. I think most of the cloud providers, because they have more money, and this is their main business, the security is much better there. Can we trust the cloud? It's 80% psychology and 20% technical auditing. It takes time until we get used to a new service, and many people are afraid because it's new. But the young generation is getting used to it from day one, from Gmail, Facebook, etc. And those, by the way, companies also being audited all the time. So Amazon, for example, people that audit the banks and other financial institutions going to Amazon doing the same audit. So they need to work according to the standards of the highest security auditing. And can we afford not to use the cloud? It's an economical question. I mean, if our competition is starting before us to use the cloud and they gain competitive advantage compared to us, we have no choice. We have to move there as well. Another innovation that's coming is the market of multi-clouds. Today we have many cloud providers. And the big question, which one to choose and based on what and when? And there's a lot of space for innovation in this area. How to develop mechanisms like stock exchanges that will enable us in real time to decide which cloud provider to use based on cost performance, based on other measurements. And this is a great place for anyone that deals with innovation. Okay, we saw this one. Now we go to my guests here, the companies that won the prize. As you know, our organization was part of the DLD festival. I don't know if you know the DLD, but last October, together with Yossi Vardi, we had one day that was focused about cloud. Those were the companies that gave the prizes for the companies that won. And Garantia was here already. We start with the Licensario, won the first place, and will present his company. I leave it to him to present the company. So Gil, this is בוא תיקח את המיקרופון.
Okay. Hopefully. Yeah, it's working.
So I said Gil
Sadis.
yeah. The co-founder of CEO of Licensario.
Thanks. Thanks, Avner. Hello, everyone. My name is Gil, and I'm from Licensario. I'm here to introduce Licensario, which is a web-based solution that helps SaaS companies optimize their pricing, increase revenues, and reduce churn rate. So it's this direction. I want to start by telling you a story about why we started the company, so you'll know a bit better, and I think you will relate to this story. We're also a technical company, but I think it will be an easier task to explain what we're doing. So my co-founder and I worked at Conduit before starting Licensario, and we were both developers, but we needed Adobe Photoshop for a small UI fix. And we didn't want to bother the creative team for this small task. And this situation happened to us a few times, so we thought to ourselves that we need a license for Photoshop. But guess what? Photoshop costs $1,000. At least it was back then. And even for small tasks or short usage. And this was really frustrating. So we started thinking about it, and we figured out there's an opportunity here. We threw some numbers on Excel and did some models, and we got to the realization that Photoshop, that Adobe, loses a lot of market segments because the way they're pricing the software. And there are thousands of companies like Adobe, and the software market is hundreds of billions of dollars. And there are a lot of companies that just don't price the software right, and they lose money because of that. So we started building something that could help software companies split the software into features, and then package these features into more convenient pricing plans, and doing so on the fly without changing the code or needing your engineering team. Though we build our company our solution as a cross-platform one, our go-to-market is SaaS businesses, SaaS companies, and web services. And this is what we're doing now. So what is Licensario? Licensario is a pricing optimization engine for SaaS companies. We help companies figure out which features to sell, for how much, and to which users. If before Licensario, the SaaS pricing world was built by looking at your competitors' websites or doing cost plus, so no more. Licensario is here to disrupt the SaaS pricing world by giving companies the ability to price the software based on the user's value. We introduced the term targeted pricing, which means that you can target pricing based on your user's behavior. So we're implementing pricing algorithms, and we're correlating them with users' behavior in order to provide software companies the ultimate pricing tool. How do we do that? using our API, like I said, software companies, we have an API. Companies can use this API to split the software into features and package these features into pricing plans. And this gives us a lot of knowledge on users' behavior. And this knowledge in return is being utilized in order to give our clients great insights and flexibility with their pricing. Let's take, for example, this pricing page. I think there's a pointer here, but OK. Let's take, for example, this pricing page. OK. Yeah, this is cool. So this pricing page is of a typical customer of ours, and this was built by using one of the features in our solution. And as you see, this customer has 3 tiers of pricing. I'm sure you've seen many of these pricing pages of software companies. And they have different features in each plan. And let's focus on the free plan and on the storage feature. So you see that on the free plan, the user gets 60 megabytes of storage. This can be Dropbox for the example. So now let's log into our dashboard. This is our dashboard. This is the dashboard we give our clients. So our client logs into the dashboard, and bam, he sees a notification telling him that 10% of his free users have reached the storage usage limit. But only 1% of these free users have converted into paying customers. So this means that there's a psychological barrier here to subscribe to this software. So we give a recommendation on how to act, how to solve the immediate need for more storage for these users. So you just click on the recommendation, and this is the payment plan constructor page. Here you can build new pricing plans and package features into this pricing plan. And in this recommendation, we just recommend on giving a promotional payment plan just to solve the immediate need for more storage. So you click on the create plan, and what happens next? The next user that will reach the storage limit will get a promotional payment plan that we just created. So it helps convert more people to pay you something for your software. So you see that our clients can test, learn, and change anything that's connected to their pricing, packaging, and managing the users without changing a single line of code. We provide flexible pricing for our service. It varies from subscription to transaction fees. And just a few numbers that shows our current status. We launched 4 months ago. We already processed more than $200,000. We expect this number to grow to $500,000 by the end of the year. And we analyzed the behavior of more than 50,000 users. And we're already helping companies stay agile, focus on their product, and make more money. So what you saw here was just a small use case, small portion of our solution that is being used for SaaS companies. But our service can be used for mobile and desktop applications as well, so we can grasp the market size. Just a word about the team. Igor Shapiro is the CTO of the company. I'm the CEO. He's my co-founder. Tal Atzmon is our head of business development and sales. Recently, Mr. Geva Berry, which is one of the thought leaders in SaaS and the SaaS community, he joined our advisory board. We just graduated from the IDC Elevator. I don't know if you heard about it. It's an Israeli accelerator program. And we got funded by various angels. Oren Zuckerman? Okay. Who? It's from the IDC. It's from the center, but not. Okay. I think it's connected to the Zell program. I don't think it's connected to the IDC Elevator, which is a separate accelerator program. It's connected to the IDC, but not. It's the Elevator is a group of the interdisciplinary center in Herzliya is part of the people that hold the place. No, Eden Shochat is sorry. That's okay. I will go over it in a second if you want. So, like I said, we already got funded. And I like to quote Warren Buffett, which said that the only single decision in order to evaluate a business is its pricing power. So licensari is going to be the pricing power of these software companies. That's it. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Yeah.
To the microphone, please. Microphone.
Business to business software as a service company can actually change their model. As in, if you're charging $300 a month,
Yeah.
within 1 month, if I change my model twice, I'm going to have customers staring hard at me.
Well, Amazon, let's take an example of Amazon. Amazon is the first company that did, I think it was the first company that did A/B testing on their pricing. And if you refresh Amazon, the page, you will see that they changed the prices even every 5 minutes or every 1 hour. And the price in the morning is different than the price in the evening. But we don't expect people to actually change or do A/B testing on their pricing in the same time. We'll change pricing, but it will be for a period, like a month or 2 months. You want to test how this pricing page is acting comparing to a different pricing page, like a different packaging or a different configuration, and even different prices. But it's okay to A/B test your pricing and even do 2 different prices at the same time. You can always give excuse to your users if someone just know that you do A/B test on pricing. You can always say, okay, I will give you the lower price. It's okay.
I mean, it's large. Like if it's a large corporation, you still see the same type of acceptance.
Yeah, because if something changed with the cloud and everything, it's just everything is measurable, and you can, in order to really know what your price is, you can't just look at your competitors and do cost plus. You have to know what your users are willing to pay, and polls and stuff like that are not really helpful. So you really need to know how they behave with your software, and one of the ways to do so is by testing which price or which pricing model works best. Any more questions?
No solution for the Photoshop yet?
No, we're actually Photoshop can use us, but it's not our go-to market.
There is some SaaS Photoshop.
Yeah, actually.
It doesn't have the full capacity, but you can do, let's say, 90% of the average person.
Yeah.
There is a side there.
Yeah, there's no solution for Photoshop yet, but if you'll see how the price evolved from this $1,000 that we experienced, now you can get Adobe Photoshop for $25 a month, I think. So you see that the world evolved, and what we do is really fits in this world. So,
I have a question regarding the cloud.
yeah.
It seems like the cloud has generated a lot of traffic, and I wonder if they sell it for either personalization or you do other things like you sell it to a search engine or something that you can generate more traffic, more money out of it rather than just pay the fee for the service.
Okay, that's a more a general question. Right?
Yeah, you want to answer that?
And then we go for David Safadi for Blanco. Yeah, actually, this is an interesting question. And today, many companies have business models that base on 2 phases. Phase 1, to create some kind of a service that will attract traffic, okay, and create big data. And the second stage of the business will be to analyze the data and sell it as a value data. You will see it more and more popular as a business model for companies to think about an idea, how to attract and create big data that will be valuable for, let's say, publishers. Okay? And this will be more and more popular. And everybody are thinking today how to make money from their log files, huge log files that they gathered. Company like LivePerson, if you heard about it, that they have this virtual agent that helps you. They have huge big data, and now they're thinking how to make money from the big data they gathered. So those sorry?
Is it legal for a cloud company to use their clients' information and sell it?
Yeah, if you not violate any legal issue, if you don't sell any private information, you don't give their names, but you can show trends. Yeah, in specific location, you show that people buy something more than last year, and so whatever, but you don't give the personal names.
And that's something on licensed service is something that's really on our roadmap because, as you saw, we track a lot of the user's behavior with software, so we can aggregate this data, sell it as brand and software environment in SaaS in different categories. Yeah, I think most of the companies that collect data. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next speaker is David Sarfati, CEO, founder of Aplango. If you remember, I talked about multi-cloud, but there's also a challenge for companies how to manage multi-SaaS services that they're using. So here we go.
Okay, so hi everybody, my name is Daniel. Thank you for being here today. We'll talk about Aplango, which is our new startup. We promised to use only two acronyms on my presentation. The first one is SaaS. I think you've seen it enough already. Even anybody who didn't hear about SaaS up until today, you know it means software as a service. It's basically software, but it's bought as a service as opposed to install it on premise, which is the old way we used to use service, right? To buy, you remember the Microsoft box with Office inside? That was the opposite of buying it as a service. Okay, so what we see people in the enterprise, and our offering is for enterprise market. So what we have seen in the past year is that people started using software as a service because it was easy to connect to it. It was available. All you need is a browser, Explorer, Chrome, whatever, and a credit card. And in many cases, not even a credit card because most software as a service provider will let you work with it for free for 20 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever. And the people started adopting all kinds of solutions. You might be familiar with some of the names. Sorry. What's the pointer? This one. Salesforce, for instance, is the most popular software as a service product today. They provide a CRM for, I believe, above 100,000 enterprise worldwide. It's a $3 billion company already. But also Dropbox, I'm sure pretty much everyone have heard about them. And there are HR solutions. And we count now several tens of thousands of professional enterprise applications in the enterprise worldwide. The situation, though, today looks pretty much more like this than the previous slide. So people have been adopting this kind of solution massively. And according to Forrester Research, this is a market which is already $33 billion enterprise SaaS this year, growing to almost $50 billion next year. From a point of view of management, though, this becomes a nightmare because those are solutions which came from the bottom and people starting using them. But today we are in the situation where professional managers, admins, they manage the single professional application wherever they are located. Typically, Salesforce is a sales and marketing application. So the admin will sit within the sales or the marketing organization, but these people, they provide subscriptions or licenses to everybody else within the organization. So what happens when somebody, for instance, in R&D who has a subscription leaves the company? Well, the guy, the admin in sales, has no clue because they're not connected in the hierarchy of the company. HR might know that the person left the company, but they don't know that the person had a license. So you have a person with an active license spending money, and it's also a security issue, and he's not with the company anymore. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of where the problem stays in management today. From a point of view of IT, this is the nightmare. The idea behind our company came from a conversation with a head of IT of a software company out of New York City. And this is a 800 people strong company using heavily SaaS applications already, or above 30 applications. And we ask a simple question: how much are you spending on SaaS applications every year? And the guy started scratching his head. He didn't know. He says, what do you mean? How much money? And he says, but look, Salesforce is managed by me, and Taleo is in HR, and I know how much we're spending on Google Apps because I did the implementation. Still, we sit together with a pencil, a piece of paper, and came up with, he was spending somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million a year, but he had no clue. And so we asked him, what happens if the CEO of a company asks the same question? Because the CEO is not going around all the several divisions of the company asking for the same question. And what if the CFO at the next budget meeting will ask you, okay, let's say that you're spending $1 million, how can you bring it down to $500,000 next year? So that's where we came up with the idea for Aplango, which is a platform to see how the usage of SaaS application happens in your company in a common and in a shared way. We're not here to change the way people work. The admin for Salesforce will stay the same admin in Salesforce within the sales organization, but we will have a common platform to decide how people are allowed to use this kind of applications. If you think about it, we have company regulations in most enterprises on how travel is going to be done. You're not allowed to go to a 5-star hotel if the standard for the company is a 4-star hotel, or to travel business. But to regulate the usage of software, which is a much more strategic and even much more expensive resource, there are no regulation, and there are no tools to enforce the regulation. We want to be the company which will do the management, the control, and the enforcement. So basically, we work on two main directives. Although Steve Jobs taught us that we have to have 3 things on every slide, we work basically on 2 directives. One is top-down. We allow managers to manage the usage of applications within the organization. We also want, and this is the second directive, help a user in a company which has all the way went already to cloud computing, found his way within the maze of tens of thousands of applications. The world, in a company which has adopted massively SaaS, the world in which you receive a PC and software is pre-installed on it doesn't exist anymore. So it's up to you to find the application you need for work. On the way to there, we also think that we can save for the companies a lot of money. One input what we get from vendors today is that about 30% of the paid monthly subscriptions for this kind of software are unused. So out of a $33 billion market, that's a significant amount of money which is today wasted because people are just buying the application and not using them. Okay, so what we mean by top-down management, we provide managers, and they are not just the admins, managers even of professional groups, a clue about if their people are using or not using the software. The idea behind this is that if a manager allocates a tool to their people, this is to implement their productivity to make work more efficient. We can show, by showing that the software is in usage or not, if the business process behind this tool is happening or not. Think of software like project management. If people are not using the project management tool, most likely they're doing their work, but they're using Excel or they're doing paper or whatever other tool. But the process, the way it was designed by the professional manager is broken, it's not happening. With Salesforce, the example is much, much easier. A salesperson who does not fill his pipeline on Salesforce, well, most likely he has a pipeline on the side, and he's not telling the company, right? So it's another broken process. By measuring the usage or not of those applications, we can give an advance warning of whether the processes are happening, and especially if they're happening the way we were designed or not. So this is much more important even than the waste I mentioned a couple of sentences ago. It's if the business process of a company is happening or not, we can give a clue about that, and that becomes strategic. The other direction that I was mentioning before is about users. Again, think of a user who has no clue. You're not in a high-tech company or entrepreneur or people who are at the peak of a technology, but just a regular Joe in a shoe factory in the Midwest. What's it going to do? So what we provide is a catalog of applications which are in use within the organization today. We mention who is the admin, so who do I go to if I need a subscription. We also provide information about who is the technical expert, because the technical expert does not reside in IT anymore. And in short, we make things much, much easier for the average user to live and survive in a company or an enterprise which went all the way to SaaS. And this is the second acronym that I promised, and that's the last one I promised. It's single sign-on. Single sign-on, it's a very practical solution for handling several credentials. It is all of those services, you need a set of credentials, typically username, which is your email, and password to access them. And organization where users already have tens of those applications, they kind of lose their passwords, or they have a problem in preserving the credential. So we provide one set, and we take care of registering all the users to their respective application, which is also something which makes life much, much easier for the average user. Saving or controlling the spending. As I said before, we estimate that 30% of the monthly paid subscriptions go unused. And this is what we hear from vendors. We all know that there are unsuccessful applications, and we see it also from our experience downloading application on our smartphones. We know that most of them go unused very quickly. Some of them are very successful, like the Facebook of this world, and they never go unused. But that's more the exception than the rule. Even very successful applications, they usually don't stay in use for more than a few months. And this is true also in the enterprise. This is what we call the new toy syndrome. People download something, they start using, they pay for the whole year in advance, but then very quickly they stop using it, and that's a big waste. People who leave the company, employee turnover. People who stay with a company for 5 years, that means the company has a 20% turnover. In theory, if you don't know that the person left the company, then half of those subscriptions on average during the year are going unused. That's another 10%. So this is why you explain it, and why we want to control spending, because that's a very important source, especially in today's business world. So talking about innovation, about what we are doing, because I believe that what I said up until now is pretty much common sense. But if we want to talk about innovation, the real change that we see here is that the whole perspective of how software is managed in an enterprise has changed. IT manager up until now, they had to make sure people had PCs and they had a good line to there with servers. Dimensioning, this is a thing from the past in a company which is widely use cloud computing. The vendor will take care that the server works all the time. They will take care of the upgrades. They will take care of service and service level agreement. Pretty much whatever is left for an IT manager to manage today is the subscriptions and the users. That's a very simple matrix. They have to make sure that every user has the service they want. Another thing which has lost completely the meaning is the device. Up until now, software was uniquely identified with, the license which was installed on a device. Think about Outlook or Office. You were installing physically on every device a software. Today, this is meaningless. All those applications, especially the ones which are in the cloud, can be accessed in parallel by several devices. So if we want to track usage, what we have to do is change completely our perspective. Again, it's the users and the application. And the application is in the cloud, and the user is using whatever device available or accessible to him. So that's another very big change. And here comes the innovation, and I won't go now into the technology, but you can imagine that all the tools from the past, which could have been used to track usage, are not relevant anymore. Traditionally, people have been installing, for instance, agents on PCs, and these agents were just broadcasting back to some center what is the activity that the person had been doing. This is not relevant anymore. So we can't use that kind of technology, and there is our innovation and what we bring to the table with Aplango. I think this is it. If there are questions, this is the founding team, this would be me, and as you can see, we have very talented graphic artists. Which can even draw us, and this is my partner, Tanya, who is really the technical brains behind our venture. So I'm here for questions if there are any.
The application that you spoke, do you support specific applications, or any application can work with your platform?
We can work with any application. The question is maybe about how much in depth we can go and describe the usage.
No, for example,
but at a basic level, any application we can hook up and we can provide valuable information about usage.
Okay.
It's a philosophical question, because for certain applications, the question is, what if we provide you the information, what are you going to do with it? Suppose we connect with Gmail, and we can report to you that how many emails per day a certain person is sending. What are you going to do with the information? I mean, you're not going to take away the Gmail subscription from somebody because he's sending 1 email a day instead of 5, right? It only costs $5 a month, so who cares? There are other applications, like one comes to mind, it's Marketo, which is a marketing application. They go for $2,000 a subscription a month. So if that goes unused, that's very interesting. It's a lot of money, okay? So I don't know, it depends. There are so many different applications in the world that it's a good question. Sure.
As you mentioned before, tracking in the past still show a lack of trust, and with something that is generating tension between the employees and the management. And I was wondering what is the added value that your software is giving in order to overcome these challenges, because it doesn't seem like it's something that is different. It just seems that it's a bit more sophisticated in a way. What is the value proposition, the added value that you guys provide over the old-fashioned?
So again, every tool is a good tool if it is used in a good way. Okay, so it is also up to the managers who activate it to use it in the proper way. But our impression is that, first of all, the part about the saving. If we can catch applications which are not in use or are not successful, we are catching waste, and it's like instructing people to turn off the light or the air conditioning before going home at night. There's a very wide agreement in any organization that waste should not happen. That's not the moral way to do it. Another thing that we see is that because there is no internal knowledge about those applications in any organization, they're all purchased by local business groups or professional groups. When somebody, in many cases, when somebody is not using them, that's because they don't know how to use them. If we can find a way to show the management that there is a problem, I don't know, they were expecting 100% utilization and you're down to 30. Well, maybe you should buy a training session for your people. It's not right or fair to assume that people are sleeping at work, right? Probably most people are honest when doing their work, but if they're not using the application, either they don't know how or the application is not good for them. So you might switch it, which is something which is very accepted in the SaaS world. It's a monthly subscription. If it's not the right tool for you, you turn it off and you go to their competitors next month. You're not stuck with them like you were with Microsoft 3 years. Up until the next software version, you're still stuck with them, right? So again, I see where you're going. I see where your question comes from. The question is how you use the tool, and most likely there's very little value in using it to catch people which are, say, lazy. Okay, that's not the point.
The bottom line is measurement. If you don't measure, you cannot manage. So today the challenge for companies is how to measure, from an economic perspective, the use of software as a service in their company. Because I need to know how much money do I spend per month, if it's efficient, not efficient, if there's a waste, and I need a tool to manage. And that was the purpose of Plango. It enables you to measure the use of SaaS application in your organization, both from economical perspective and behavioral perspective. Therefore, you can manage it much better.
Do you give the ability to the worker himself to get the feedback directly? Maybe to change the concept of what is given to the manager is providing the feedback to the employee that he can work and maybe improve himself rather than being like, this is the your director and this is you as an employee and this is the unit or whatever it is.
Yes, it's a level of, it's a question of defining the level of admin that you want to allow. The system is open for all that. It depends then on the customer what they want to activate or not. For instance, the catalog that I mentioned before, there are two versions of the catalog. One which is wide open and is pretty much every application in the world. And the other one is the catalog of the applications which are used internally. Some of our customers might leave the whole catalog open for people to pick a new application which is not in use. Most companies, most organizations, they will want a restricted catalog, which is only mentioning the applications which are already in use because they don't like to leave the power to employees to add new applications. But it's a matter of company policy, most than anything else. Lunch break?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to conclude this session, say that this phenomena we just talked about, the cloud computing and the impact on innovation, impacts all of us. And each one of us should ask himself, how does it impact my personal life, my work life, my social life? Because everybody now is moving into a new era of social cloud computing. So I would like also to thank this opportunity to Norma for organizing it. And thank you all.
טוב, צהריים טובים, נראה לי שאנחנו נתחיל, למרות שיש לנו מרצה אחד שלו פה. טוב, אז קודם כל אני אבקש מכולם, ישר, על ההתחלה, בואו נתקרב כמה שיותר, יש פה מלא מקומות פה, אנחנו מלא אנשים, אז אבל תתקרבו. בכל זאת. תודה. עכשיו, דבר שני זה, בוודאות יהיה דיון אינטימי, אז בייחוד בחלק של שאלת השאלות והדיון, אני רוצה שכולם ישתתפו, יש מיקרופונים פה על השולחן, יש בקשה מיוחדת מהאיש על הקול ועל המצלמה, שנדבר לתוך המיקרופון. טוב, התחלנו. Okay, so we are speaking English today, so let's speak English. Yep. So good afternoon, everybody. We are very happy to have you all here. And we are going to talk about technology transfer today. So let me start from a personal story. Like in 2002 or 2003, I was working in IBM research then, and we had a brilliant idea. We collected information from all data sources in IBM about everybody in IBM, everything they do, every project they worked on, and we built an amazing social network of information. We called it SAND, and we tried to sell it to IBM product division. 8 years later, with many years of my life gone, 20% of this functionality found its way to IBM products. So I know very intimately what it means to be in the valley of death from a great idea, wonderful research project, neat technology to actual products, actual users, actual buying. So this is the subject we are going to talk about. So let me start from introducing myself. My name is Vova Soroka. I'm from IBM. I am still in IBM. You know, this is how it is with this company. And I'm managing a unit called GTU, Global Technology Unit in IBM, which is responsible for collaboration of IBM with Israeli high-tech companies. So actually we have a very Zionist goal. We are taking Israeli companies and make them very successful with IBM in the world. I have today with me a wonderful panel of subject matter experts coming from all sorts of places subject-wise and covering the subject of technology transfer from different angles. So I'll let them all introduce themselves, but we have with us Yochai Rosenblatt, who is the president of NICE Systems in Israel. Izzy Borovich, who's today is Dean of School of Management and Economics in Tel Aviv Yafo Academic College. Paz Ofek, who is from Battery Ventures. And Dan Kaufman, who's Dr. Dan Kaufman, who's a specialist in innovation from Ben-Gurion University. So we'll start by letting all of our distinguished panelists talk a little bit about what technology transfer means to them and how they look at that. And then we'll open the floor for questions and discussion because I think that everybody here has something to say about it. So we'll start probably with Yochai. He is closer to me.
So you want me to go over my presentation? Yeah. You like to see a presentation, or you had enough of them this morning? All right, I'll try to be not only interesting but also entertaining and inspiring, hopefully. And I will touch the part of the innovation that actually talking not that much about how the innovation is being developed, but how innovation is being taken to the market. And this part, in my mind, is very critical, because if you're looking at the landscape of the Israeli technology market, you see some kind, somewhat an unbalanced picture. You see, I don't know officially how many startups we have. Anybody knows how many startups are in Israel? 6,000. Yeah. I think it's in thousands. We can agree that it's in thousands. How many companies are in Israel above $1 billion? I don't think that, I'm not talking about Teva. Teva, we can argue if it's a technology company or not, but let's put Teva aside. Amdocs, there is another one. Checkpoint. Babylon in shekel in a good day. No way. No, not dollars. I'm talking about dollars.
If you count the local companies, you also have the telcos and the banks.
No. Not the telco. I'm talking about technology company. We can agree that there is two. By the way, soon there will be three, because NICE, the company that I manage, is growing nicely and hopefully will cross the $1 billion. I'm not going to say when, because you're taping me here and we are a public traded company. However, you see an unbalance, and I believe that this is not representing a healthy high-tech market. I would think that most of you will agree that we should have a more balanced market here, that you have a lot of startups. We all love them. They're great, and they not only they're generating jobs, they're bringing a lot of money to the company, to the country. Each time they've been sold, the tax are coming to generate more tax money to the citizens. Hopefully, if we'll get there. However, I think that in order to have a healthy industry, we need to have companies from all sizes. So we need to have the startups, we need to have small companies, I'm talking up to $100 million, we need to have a medium-sized company up to $1 billion, and we need a few Amdocs and a few checkpoints companies that cross the $1 billion. This way, you can always generate innovation, not just coming from the startup. You can have big companies buying startups, Israeli startups. You can have companies merging within the industry and creating a big critical mass. And I think the fact that companies are vanishing at some point is actually due to two major reasons, at least that I can think of. One is that it's, of course, very tempting when a company like NCR coming to Retalix last week, offering $800 million, 30%, I think, above the market price, and everybody say, I don't think we should sell, but, looking at the money, and eventually took the decision to sell. That's one reason. It's money, it's business. If it's good business, it should be done. Another thing is that it's happened is also related to the fact that it's not easy to grow, not easy, Borovit, that's also not easy to be easy, but it's also very difficult to grow companies above a certain threshold. It's very hard to grow to cross the 100 million, and it's definitely very, very hard to grow a software company or technology company above $1 billion. Why? And that's actually what I would like to try and cover in my presentation. So my name is Yochai Rosenblatt, and after this opening, I think it's important that you will know a little bit of my background. I came to NICE about 8 years ago. The company was under $200 million, and at least according to the guidance that we gave Wall Street, we plan to be about $930 million in 2012. We didn't give guidance for 2013, so give or take over $900 million. Sorry, not 930, a little bit less than that, so cut it from the... so what actually I experienced in my time with NICE, with my 8 years, is that the ability to grow the business is getting difficult exponentially. What used to be easy, or not easy, but relatively easy, to grow from 100 to 200 is becoming very, very difficult when you're talking about to grow a company from 900 to 100 to 1 billion. So I was managing the enterprise business at the beginning, enterprise sales in the Americas. Then after a few years, I was managing the Americas for NICE, both North and South America. This is a business that it's around $500 million. And about 6 months ago, I took the position of managing the enterprise business of NICE. NICE had 3 divisions. One is the enterprise, another one is security, and the third one is Actimize, a company that we acquired, an Israeli company that we acquired about 4 years ago, and it's a huge success, at least as far as we're concerned. So the business that I'm managing is about 2/3 of the company, give or take $600+ million. And one of the challenges that I gave my team is, okay, what's next for us? What is the strategy that we should adapt moving forward in order to grow our business? And the question was not about what kind of products, what kind of business we should buy, etc., but really, what is the strategy in a very high level that we should adapt? And I cannot get the next click. Oh, okay. And the question was not an easy one to answer. And one of the questions that came up, can we think big enough? Can we change our mindset and start to think in hundreds of millions and start to evaluate business, not if they can contribute a few dozens of millions, but a few hundreds of millions? And it's not just about the number. It's also about how we are treating our customers. How is our go-to-market should change in all the different elements of our business. And the idea that I like to share with you today is the idea that I share with my team, a concept that I would like to introduce to you, and then I'll expect you to ask, what it has to do with growing the business across a certain threshold. I'm sure everybody knows this very respectful gentleman. Who is that? Aaron Barak, yes. Aaron Barak, I don't have to say a lot about him. He's probably one of the most influential figure in the history of the Israeli judicial system. He came with a concept that said, since Israel don't have a constitution, then the role of the Supreme Court is not just to take the dry wording of the law and adapt it as it's written. Because of the fact that we don't have a constitution, the Supreme Court actually need to take the different rules, the different laws that coming from the Knesset, and give them an interpretation that maintain, or in the spirit of Israel as a democracy and a Jewish company. And I'm not going to get into politics. I'm just trying to make a different point. So we can say that Barak was a judicial activist. Do you know this person? Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Amazon was established more than 10 years ago when store used to be sold only in the bookstore. And when he started, he actually looked at the internet and decided to start selling books on the internet. Stupid idea, no? One will say. Today, Amazon is over $50 billion for conglomerate that can sell from books all the way to, I don't think they're selling cars, but they're selling almost everything except that. Thousands and thousands of products. We can call Bezos a retail activist. This guy, do you know who is this guy? Yeah, this is the, who is it? The founder of Zynga, exactly. Sorry? Yeah, he maybe lost some money, but I don't think we have to worry about him. This is Pincus. He is the founder of Zynga, and he basically took a concept that said that, yes, people are playing gaming online. It's very nice, but people in their nature like to play games together. So he took the concept of the old Shabetzna game that in Hebrew I think that's how it's called, and invented a company that called Zynga with Farmsville and Words with Friends, etc., etc. If you remember that Alec Baldwin was arrested almost in one of the flights because he refused to close his iPad. What was he playing? Words with Friends. So we can call him a consumer activist. So why do I say 4 minutes? Oh, I'm over. Why do I say that? Because I believe that when a company gets to a certain size and into a certain market that you're controlling, you need to change the way you're doing business. And you need to change the way that you're doing business, and this is what I call business activism. You need to become business activist. And business activists have 3 different dimensions in my mind. One dimension is the market. We were, until not too long ago, playing in a market that's called WFO, Workforce Optimization. Someone defined this market for us. And every time that someone, an analyst or a thought leader is saying, now workforce optimization is also including this, the siren in Ra'anana is on. And everybody's crying, oh my God, now it's including this. What are we going to do? Are we going to buy? Are we going to develop? How much it's going to cost? If you want to be a business activist, you need, from a certain size, to define the market yourself. You need to decide in what market you're playing, what problem you are solving, and of course, you need to have the right solution to this market so you can make also a lot of money out of that. The second phase, or the second level, is what I call the business activism with our customers. We can no longer, from a certain size, from a certain level of business, think that our customers are just the one that's writing the checks for us. We need to be in a position that we have the relationship, we have the ability and the capabilities to be a real partner when a customer has a business problem, not a technology problem necessarily, but mostly a business problem. They will think about us, okay, NICE can solve this problem. And you have a place next to the table solving this problem. And the third is internally. I believe that innovation is not just about technology. Innovation, creative thinking should be done or should be executed in every part of our business. It should be on the business processes. It should be, of course, on the technology. It should be in the go-to-market. It should be in the strategy. It should be in everything that we are touching and doing. We need to think innovative. We need to execution in an innovative way. That's the only way that we can do it. And in order for companies today to be able to be effective, you need to be very, very close to the market. Because changes have been here from the previous many, many years. From the beginning of history, changes happened. Some of them were forcing on the human being. Some of them were creating by the human being. The difference between then and now is the pace. The pace is much, much faster. And you see business that don't understand that there is a change and acting either or proactively or reactively, it's even better than not acting at all, just going to become irrelevant very, very fast. And that's create another situation that, if you need to make a lot of decision and very, very fast, you increase your mistake rate. So how can you balance that? The only one answer to that. You need to be close to your customers, close to the market, and then you get what I call the hunch. You understand what you have to do without too many inputs, because You're talking to a customer here. You're going to a different forum there. You hear one of your services guys that just came from implementation next to the cooler, et cetera, et cetera. Slowly, all these small pieces of puzzle are giving you a clear view of where the market is heading and what you need to do. And when a decision is coming on your table, you know what to do. So when you wake up in the morning, think business activism. Don't just do your job. Don't just follow the flow. Be innovative, be creative, and be different. Thank you very much.
It's called IBM. No. Sorry. My name is Dan Kaufman. I was presented earlier. I'm from the Ben Gurion University. I'm also, by the way, from the Jerusalem Institute of Israel Studies. My expertise, my field of studies is innovation management. Among this, of course, are question of technology transfer. And in the 10 minutes I have, I will try to summarize a work of about more than 7-8 months with Israeli Chemicals Company, which is one of the companies which is more than $1 billion per year. I guess everyone knows what is ICL, Israel Chemicals. It's including Dead Sea Works, Dead Sea Magnesium, the bromine company. Main issue is fertilizers and other things for agriculture. Now, in these 8 months, what we tried, we actually had the same question as NICE, or they had the same question as NICE, is what's next, is how we can break the limits of our knowledge, of the things that we are producing. And these are very tough questions when you are already so dominant in the market. And for this, what I will end this presentation by presenting a new model that we developed, and actually it was announced yesterday in the press. It's called ICL Innovation, and it's a new thinking about technology transfer. And I will go to it, but before I will start as an academic, I will start from the theory more and what led us to where we came. So what we feel about technology transfer, and as you can guess, ICL work a lot with different institutes in Israel, with, I guess, all the universities here in Israel and a lot of institutes around the world. And what we found out that the distinction that usually is coming from the understanding of universities, the distinction between universities and what's happening in industries are no longer valid. It's not that university has basic fundamental research and industry have only applied research. In some fields of fertilizer, I think our knowledge is no less than the knowledge that, or the studies are not less complex than the one who are being studied at Technion or at the Weizmann Institute or wherever. I guess that Intel is the same. What they know about their field is not inferior to the knowledge that is being, or in NES, is not inferior to the knowledge that is being developed in the universities. So this distinction between basic and applied is no longer exist. And what else is that companies, especially big corporations, do not only conduct but do need fundamental research in order to go next, in order to have a breakthrough. And in many cases, in water technology, in fertilizers, in bromine, we do need fundamental research. We don't need, let's say, applied research. We have around the world 500 researchers We don't need another applied research. We are seeking for fundamental research. Okay, now this is, while we are looking for fundamental research, for scientists who can cooperate with us, who can join us or we can join them, it doesn't matter. Today, the system of technology transfer is not working like this. TTOs, what they provide you, usually in the internet sites, what they provide you is a big list of technology, titles. Now you're expected to find your way out of these titles, and on the contrary, the TTOs doesn't know the real needs of the companies. So when people are speaking about the valley of death, it's not only a financial valley of death, it's a valley of death of communication. People of the same side, both sides of this valley do speak the same language, but they don't communicate. They don't communicate early enough, and they don't understand the needs of each other. The scientists, the TTOs who represent them, commonly does not understand the real needs of the companies, and the opposite. The companies are looking at these titles, and they reject projects, reject scientists who may be of much of interest for them. So I think when we are speaking about blue science research, blue sky research, we have to ask ourselves, is it really blue? What I mean is that scientists at the university, they always insist, and correctly, they insist on making blue sky research, but the question is, must it be blue? I agree that it should be in the sky limit, it should be fundamental, but must it be blue? Can it be green? I mean, looking down to Earth and to see where the connections are. And as I told you, today, this view is missing. No one at the university is looking on the real needs of the companies. I would say even in some cases it's a bit funny. You know, I once met someone who is managing a drug company, and he told me, we already finished to develop the drug, now we are searching for the illness that might fit this drug. So in a sense, it's the case of the TTOs. They have a lot of technologies, but they don't know exactly what to do with. Now they have to look what these technologies, what problems they might solve. But this matching rarely happens. Now what's happened out of it? What are the problems? For corporation, academic IP can rarely answer their specific needs. That's trivial because no one actually looked on their needs. No one looked at it because maybe they thought it's more applied research. It doesn't account as a blue sky research. But what I want to tell you, it's not true. Many of ICL's needs, and I guess of other corporations as well, requires fundamental research that can result in academic paper, in leading academic paper, and is interesting from an academic point of view as well. As we all know, for investor, academic IP is often considered too early or too risky. Research can rarely be or want to be entrepreneurs. That's the two different cultures. And the result is that most academic IP remains in the academia. Only 10 to 15% is being commercialized. So, okay, I'm at the end. So what ICL, what we build together, we try to build is different or alternative TTO model, where in this model we hope, at least we will try, ICL will try on his side, to pave a two-lane bridge, one that links between academia and industry, but also link between the industry and the academia, because this lane does not exist today. And what the model is, what ICL model of open innovation is, we want to come to the university and present a list of needs that the solution requires fundamental research. We do have a lot to do with researchers doing fundamental research in fields that are of interest to ICL. So we will not wait. We do not just want to go through titles, but we want to come actively with list of needs. We want to search for the relevant researchers, for the relevant projects, for students as well, MA students, PhD students. And what we offer, what ICL offer, is of course full coverage of the project cost, fair compensation to the researcher in case of implementation. So in fact, ICL, what it wants to suggest is kind of a strategic partnership with the researcher, with the institute. So if it will be successful, they already know who is going to buy the project, to pay for the project. All IP will belong, in case of success, to IP, so to ICL. So it is a kind of buying the IP in advance. But, and this is the main case here, the main point here, in case of rejection, in case ICL would not like to implement this IP, although it finances its development, all IP will belong to the research institute or to the researcher for further studies. ICL doesn't want anything of this IP if it doesn't use it. And the basic idea is that the model should be simple and fair. This is from yesterday, or from the day before yesterday, the announcement in Globes, Israel Chemicals launch open innovation program. The company will allocate several millions. What? What do you say? 11:44. Okay, and that's all.
Okay, hi. I prepared a presentation, but in order for us also to have a panel that you can ask questions, I'll be very, very short. My name is Zizi Borovich. As it was mentioned, I'm now the Dean of the School of Business and Management of the College of Tel Aviv, the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yafo. Originally I was at Tel Aviv University for many, many years, Faculty of Management. Then I became the CEO of Arkia Airlines for 18 years or something like that. And then we bought El Al, and which, by the way, they're over $2 billion also. So, you know, no. I think the way you asked the question and the answer that we got is, I think it's really the real issue. Because right away, most of the answers were about high-tech companies. And I think that's, in my opinion, it's the wrong approach. Because regardless of what you do in high-tech, you still need the other industries also. I remember always when I had an argument with the pilots, that they said that without them we cannot fly, I told them we also cannot fly without those that load the baggage on the airplane, because we need them also. So when you work in an environment, everybody has to contribute its whatever it needs to operate. But I did prepare a presentation, but I decided to cut it, and I started the presentation by showing Moses coming down with the 2 tablets. You remember? Stop at that. Okay, leave it then. No, because otherwise we'll not finish by 5 o'clock. So. And the idea, the topic of the session is it's a technology transfer. In my idea, technology transfer is only a subset of what it's called knowledge transfer. And I think the real issues that we need to talk is about the knowledge transfer. And I decided to present 2 case studies that come from the aviation industry. The first one is the case study of American Airlines, that in 1953, the CEO of American Airlines at that time and vice president of IBM existed at that time, you know that. And flew together on a flight between New York and Los Angeles, and started to talk. Each one, the 5.5 hours flying, they started to talk about the problem. So the guy from IBM said, you know, we're making small computers, we need customers for big computers, et cetera, et cetera. And the CEO of American Airlines said that they need a big computer in order to produce and started, and that's what became the well-known Sabre system, which is the real big reservation system that is still being used by many, many airlines. The reason I bring it because I think this is the example of exactly how people treated knowledge. In the very beginning, everybody kept the knowledge for himself. By the way, I don't know if you are all aware of there was a company called Elsint in Israel. I don't know if some of you know. And Suhami was the CEO. And Suhami was protecting his knowledge so much that he didn't even show the customers, the potential customer, what he's producing. And the end of it is it's a non-story. The German people started and started a competition, and Elsint is not here anymore with us. But the reason I'm bringing American Airlines because it's an example how our company developed a system and slowly but slowly understood that they cannot keep the information or the knowledge only for themselves because in order to bring partners, in order to bring users, you have to tell them what you're doing and you know, in the reservation system there are many algorithms, and I'm not going to get into it because it's a very complicated system. And somewhere in 1967, if I'm not 1976, a new CIO, a Chief Information Officer, came from American Airlines and said, and until then, by the way, there were many tries. Eastern Airlines tried, and TWA, and US Air didn't exist, and all the other airlines, there were many, many attempts to develop a system. And this guy was, by the name Max Hooper, came and said, listen, guys, we cannot keep it for ourselves only if we want really to use this tool as a competitive a tool to, and you talked about the market, to compete in the market. And he opened the system, and he started to sell the product, not only for American Airlines, and also for the others. And then after that, of course, because of the antitrust, they had to disconnect from American Airlines, and they went to the IPO and everything, and it's a big success. So this is one case which you grow with the knowledge transfer and the knowledge allocation also, and you get into a new product. Later on in 1986, don't get me, you know, I'm getting old, forget numbers. Some European airlines decided that they want also to develop a system like that. And the system is called Amadeus. I don't know if many of you know. And this was different from a regular knowledge transfer. That's what I call a knowledge merging, knowledge sharing. Actually, 4 different airlines got together. Each one of them brought its own knowledge, and they merged it together, and they developed the system, which is considered now to be the best among the reservation system. All I'm trying to say that I think that our nature sometimes competes with what we really need to do, and it's a very natural that we all like to keep the information for us, the knowledge for us, but today, you know, with the social media and all of those things, there's no way we can protect it. So the approach that I think that we should take is open, work together with others, and at the end of it, the results will be much better. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. So it seems like we're a little bit short on time. So a wise person once told me that a good speaker is one that speaks loudly so that everybody can hear him, speaks slowly so that everybody can understand him, and speaks briefly so that everybody loves him. So I'm going to try to be brief. That's it, I'm done. So can we please get my slide up? It's the one with pause on it. And I want to thank Vova and team for inviting me to participate here on the panel. I thought I would share with you a slightly different perspective on technology transfer. My name is Paz Eshel, and I'm with Battery Ventures. For those of you who are not familiar with Battery Ventures, we are a $4 billion venture capital firm that was started 30 years ago in Boston. We then opened our offices in Silicon Valley and recently here in Israel. And we invest in technology companies of all sizes and at all stages, from early stage seed, an entrepreneur with an idea, that just wants $500,000 to go and build his business, to more later stage companies, what we call buyout, which is a $100 million type of investment. And we invest globally, and we invest across all technology sectors and also in technology-enabled businesses. So services companies such as, for example, direct insurance, Bituach Yashir here in Israel is one of the companies that we also invested in because of their technology services. So I thought I would talk to you about our perspective on technology transfer, both because it is core to our strategy as a venture capital fund here in Israel. We differentiate ourselves from the other firms in that we actually are one big fund here in Israel and in the United States. We're not a franchise that just using the same brand name and a separate fund to invest. We're one team. We work globally with all the different offices, and we specialize in one technology areas. For example, I specialize in what's called enterprise IT, and I look at investments here in Israel, in Boston, and also in Europe. And that gives us the perspective of understanding the different trends, the different best practices in our portfolio companies across the world, and also enables us to understand, as we cross-pollinate and talk to each other within the firm, what are some of the cross-industries trends that we can leverage and help our portfolio companies grow. So those are a few words about Battery Ventures. I also thought I would share with you my perspective, having just recently moved here to Israel after spending several years, 15 years, in Silicon Valley, and most recently at Cisco Systems. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a small networking firm in the Valley, where I was working in the strategy, investments, and acquisitions group and looked a lot at the early trends and the technology companies there. So I wanted to give you an outsider's perspective on my view of the startup nation so far. It's first of all been fascinating. There's so much exciting and interesting technology that's being developed here in Israel. At the same time, there are a couple of things that really bother me, both as an Israeli and as an investor, that I wanted to share with you and wanted to get people thinking about. So the first one is that Israel is a small country. Unfortunately, it's not an end market to any of our startups here. Companies that want to succeed and grow have to sell into the United States, Europe, or Asia. And that puts us at a disadvantage because we're sitting so far away from our target market. And from what I could see, there seems to be some disconnect in our understanding of the business needs and trends of those customers. And I can talk, for example, about big data and business intelligence. I'm sure we have a lot of knowledge here from our intelligence experience, Shmona Matayim, and so on, in big data and business intelligence. Why are there no more companies developing here in Israel what is one of the hottest topics in Silicon Valley and what customers are looking for today in Silicon Valley? Another example is software-defined networking. Same thing. So I want to get people to start thinking about what can we do to actually bring ourselves closer to this end market and to understand what their problems are and build solutions that solve those needs rather than build cool technologies that are just technologies. Another thing that I want people to think about is suns versus moons. So I really like this analogy. Some companies are suns. They're platforms. There are companies that are so innovative and disruptive that other companies, little moons, build around them. For example, Salesforce with their Force platform. So many businesses have been built around that system. Another one, for example, is AWS. AWS, Amazon Web Services, for those who are not familiar with it, is basically the invention of the cloud. That has brought on an entire ecosystem around it. And unfortunately, there are not that many suns here in Israel. I think that we like to build around the suns that are built in Europe and in the United States, but we don't actually think big enough or take big enough of a risk to build suns here in Israel. So I want people to think big and take that opportunity to leverage all this technology that we have here to come up with something that's really innovative. At the same time, there's a risk to it. Of course, if you fly too close to the sun, you might get your wings burned, but the rewards are huge. I'm going to skip a little bit here. I also want to talk about growing businesses versus quick exits, which is something that, as an investor, we think about a lot. For some reason, as Yochai has mentioned, we don't have a lot of billion-dollar businesses here in Israel, but we have plenty of small exits. I think that people are afraid of taking a chance and letting their company keep on growing beyond the $100 million, $200 million in revenues into a large platform business that can serve as a sun for other companies both in Israel and beyond Israel to grow on. So I want people to start thinking is about why we're actually afraid of taking these risks and taking that next step and growing our business, and why are we selling our businesses so quickly? And lastly, a lot of people ask us, you know, you look at a lot of different cool technologies, what's next, where's the world going, what are some of the really cool trends? We also like to think about what's not going to change, because those are the things that are going to stay here in 5 years, in 10 years. Those are the same customer needs that you can actually build a business around. And those are the things that you should be thinking about as you try to build a startup or a business that's going to last and it's going to succeed. Not only what's the next cool new technology, but also what's a cool technology that actually solves a business need and a business problem that's going to stay around for many years to come. And I thought I would talk about an example of technology transfer from academia, but I think I'm going to leave that out for this time. For those who are interested, there's a really fascinating example of Jeff Hawkins, the inventor of Palm Pilot, and his experience with Numenta, which came out of UC Berkeley. You can look it up probably on Wikipedia. It's a fascinating story. But if anyone here is working on any sort of startup or anything that's really interesting or exciting, please do feel free to reach out. We would love to talk to you. And thank you.
Okay, so thanks so much. I actually had a lot of fun listening to all of you. And I want to mention one thing. So from this great panel, we have two people which Yael Shani, who's somewhere here, likes to call Mochot Chozrim, or returning minds. Both Yochai and Paz are coming back to us after staying for some time abroad. And I think that you all experience that we just gained two wonderful people here. Okay, so I want to open it for like 10, 15 minutes of questions from the audience. I think it will be much wiser than have me ask questions.
Yes, a question to Paz. It's a question to Paz. Paz, okay? I actually agree with you about not connecting enough to the global trends. Any ideas about how we can do that? Because I agree, it's a general issue that we have.
Is that? So one of the things that we're doing with batteries, we're actually thinking about how we can create forums. I'll just talk. So one of the things that one of the things that we're thinking about with battery is how we can actually bring those people, those subject matter experts in those different trends closer here to Israel. The way that we're doing that is we're going to establish a series of talks. For example, in Enterprise IT, we're going to have a series of Enterprise IT talks where we're going to be bringing in people from the Valley to talk to some of the local entrepreneurs and technologists, and share what they're seeing, what their customers are demanding, and where things are moving so that we have a little bit more of that here in Israel as well.
You can hear me, right? About part of the things that were just said, because we already have many forums, tech talks of entrepreneurs, of R&D leaders, of people coming from abroad to meet entrepreneurs, little startups, medium startups, and big companies. And there is something that is, I wanted to ask it, but since it's already on the table, there is something that is very unique in Israel, and that is that everybody knows everybody and sitting very close. So there are meetings, and there are tech talks and collaboration talks, and Vova can even approve it. We have Future 8 that has CEOs of startups and big R&D centers sitting together talking about mutual challenges. We have cyber security forums that competitive companies are sitting together talking about it. And we have entrepreneurs like Tech Talks, COILs, Open Coffee Club, where leaders are sitting with entrepreneurs. You are welcome to join to any one of them and accelerate this. What I wanted to ask is if you see anything that is more, and by the way, about trends, are doing wonders in big data, and that's an Israeli company, and Lighthouse have their R&D center in Israel, and they actually started a new collaboration with Verizon after Verizon person was here in Israel, and we got them to sit together, and it didn't happen abroad, it happened here. Do you see assets in this ecosystem that are different in terms of technology transfer or technology collaboration, such as the ones that I mentioned? Any of you?
Well, I think that it's a matter of degree. It's not a black and white answer. And coming from the field, I've been in the U.S. for more than 12 years, in most of the time in sales position. We need to understand that there is a lot that we don't know. And although we have people traveling around, but I can give you an example for, especially when you're getting into the business application, not IT. IT, I think it's a challenge, but not as big as a business application, because we at NICE a few years ago, we created an application for credit card processes, improving credit card processes. The people that created this application didn't carry a credit card in the US for even one day. So they didn't even understand the environment. And I think that bringing people here is very, very important, but the experience of being in the field and see and meet customers is irreplaceable. So I think that both the direction needs to happen simultaneously in order to create this dialogue. But I think another problem is many Israeli companies are in some kind of an attitude that, we have an amazing technology, we fell in love with our technologies, and if customers don't buy it, either the salespeople are stupid or the customers are stupid. By the way, sometimes they do. Yeah, sometimes they do, but even stupid people need to have technology. So I think that the mindset needs to change and the focus needs to shift from very technology focus to much more a business focus, and really, as was mentioned by Dan, not look for a technology that need a problem, but look a problem for that technology can solve.
Hi, I don't know if it's working. Working? Okay. When I was in IBM a few years ago, they were talking about one of the goals was to be nimble. And I thought that IBM and nimble didn't work all that well together. And my question to you, Chai, is I think that one of the difference when you have $1 billion corporation or a big corporation, IBM I guess would consider billion maybe sort of small, is that you can actually decide to create a market and create technology which is deep enough that is hard for all the small people to follow you. You can create a differentiator. You can have 100 people working on something for a few years, and then you have a real power tool. And it seems that people are talking less about that. They talk about the fact that the small people have the advantage that they can sort of move around when they see the opportunity. And it's true, they are faster, if I can think about the procedures that existed in my company. But you don't talk about use your size to create a technology that other people have a hard time following. So I don't hear people talking about this. This seems to be like the obvious advantage of being big.
One of the concepts that I shared with my people is that I believe that, and I think it's related to what you're saying, that in order to get from a certain size, you can no longer just be an application company. I believe that in order to generate an ecosystem, as I say, to be a sun and not a moon, you need basically to have at least what I call kind of the triple dipping. I would say wealth creation, basically. What I'm saying is that you need to develop applications that can solve business problems and generate ROI. These application needs the platform to be able to function, and you're creating a very unique data that you can have other companies generating application on top of your data, on top of your platform. By doing that, you create this ecosystem. In order to generate application, platform, and the unique data that you can also make money from both the application, the platform, and the data, you need the certain size that companies that growing to that size can leverage. For example, Salesforce.com, do you know how many applications running on Salesforce.com now, small and big? in millions, okay? 2 millions. So try to get Salesforce.com out of your organization. It's like taking your internal organs out. So I think that's the game that the big companies should have. They should generate application that can solve business cases and creating ROI, sitting on a platform that is unique to them, generating data that is unique to them. I can give you an example from NICE. NICE has a capturing platform that capturing calls that come into the contact center, analyzing them, and then generating a very unique unstructured data that nobody else can. And companies like IBM, for example, would like to get this data so they can include it in the transactional data that they're generating and the structured data that they are analyzing. By doing that and expanding it to other channels, we can create an ecosystem that will allow us to be much more strategic to our customers. I hope I answered the question.
This is a question to the panel. What are some of the best practices you've seen in terms of knowledge transfer, technology transfer within organizations? So how do you make collaboration between different parts of the organization better in terms of transferring ideas and implementing thoughts from one side of the organization to another?
I think the real answer is very simple. It's the question of a culture. And as I said in a few words, that I think that people should work together, and the only way to do it is to get the people together. And kind of different mechanism that you can do it. And usually in face-to-face, not using the IT or the media. And I don't know. I'm for it.
Well, I can add to that, if I may. Okay, so I mentioned my example of having this cool research technology getting all the way to the product. It took 8 years, but it actually succeeded somewhat. And I think that one practice that I really, at least in big organizations like IBM, that was very effective for me, I was never pitching at one place. Taking any organization, I would pitch to both to the general manager of the unit who's making supposedly all the decisions, to his architecture teams that actually is in charge of building the technology for the product, and actually to the last programmer in the chain. And the reason I was doing all of that is that at the end of the day, it seems that if the general manager is so excited about your technologies, then you're made your sale. Or, well, if the architect knows how to build it in, then it's fine. But then it turns out that if everything that I mentioned happens, then there is a programmer that says, but I have too many things to build. I just cannot take another one. So if all of them are actually sold, there is a good chance that your technology actually will make your way in.
One thing I want to add regarding communication within the organization, one thing I think that companies are making a mistake is that you have to avoid linearity. If you want to have a technology transfer within the organization, it should not be linear. It should not be transferred from one unit to other, but it must be a chain model or a simultaneous model, and as early as possible is better. I saw many cases where when technology was transferred from the R&D to, for example, to the production, it only then appeared the problems of producing what the R&D developed or marketing what the production unit are producing. And you have really funny stories within companies that, when you are making a post-mortem, you can immediately say that this company cannot market this product. But when you are not avoiding linearity, you will always fall into this problem.
So we have time for maybe one last pressing questions people have.
A question to Paz. I see that there is a trend for technology companies to get bought, to be bought by other companies in the earlier stage. And I think that for this reason, we will not see companies like NICE, many companies like NICE and Amdocs in the future. Do you agree with me? And if so, why is this trend and how can we change it?
So unfortunately, I do agree with you, especially here in Israel. I think this is something that we don't really see as frequently in Silicon Valley and the United States in general. Companies are usually willing to say, no, I want to keep on growing my business. My plan is to take this public. For example, Mark Zuckerberg received an offer very early on to sell Facebook for $1 billion. And this is at the point where it was barely a real company. And he said no. And that's a lot of money. $1 billion is a lot of money. He said, no, I want to grow this business. I want to keep on working on this. This is my idea. This is mine. I'm going for it. And I think a lot of people here in Israel, when they're approached with the same value proposition, they take the money, unfortunately, and they don't fight for their idea, and they don't keep on growing because they're afraid it's not going to come back later on. And I think we've seen that a lot of technology companies that do take the time to keep on growing and do believe in what they're doing can actually reach that same point.
To comment on that, we companies too early. So first of all, there are two issues. You know, maybe some of the companies we sell too early, but in Israel, first of all, we don't have the infrastructure and the market ingredient to actually build large companies. What I mean is, you have to sell because you have no experience in. You don't know the market, so you have a technology, so someone else will take it to the market. Some companies you really can grow, but for that you need the infrastructure around it. First of all, we don't have late-stage fund, we don't have mezzanines, we don't have, the IPO market is shut down basically, and we don't have, you know, you can take company from the Silicon Valley, revenues and go IPO at NASDAQ, but there are very few Israeli companies that can do that. So we have to have the intermediate. And we as the high-tech industry organization, and I'm the co-chairman of that organization now, that's on our agenda to build this infrastructure. The Tel Aviv Stock Exchange for mid-sized companies, so there will be some liquidity maybe for the founder. By the way, when you look at all the exit in Israel that were above $100 million, 70% of them actually were pushed by the entrepreneurs and not by the investors. So now you see more and more that in large round, actually the venture capitals are giving some money to the entrepreneurs so they will stay within the company and will build this company. And there are also secondary fund that are actually buying out some of the equity of the entrepreneurs. So if we'll have all this infrastructure and the ecosystem, I'm sure we'll see more and more large Israeli companies like Checkpoint, NICE, and et cetera, But we need the infrastructure. So I'm happy that Battery is here and have a late-stage fund and can invest $100 million in company. That will help.
Absolutely. It's also a question of infrastructure, as you have said, and also just a question of culture and mentality and how you think about these opportunities when they're presented to you.
Okay, so if you had fun with this panel, please, last round of applause to our panelists. Thank you all.